Hi everyone, thank you for joining us here on Open Line. We are continuing our conversation about medical debt. My name is Chris Conti. We are here this evening with Michelle Johnson from the Tennessee Justice Center, who is kind enough to lend us some time. We'll explain this just so that we continue to get it out there. The whole reason we are doing this is because of a new initiative that we have here at NewsChannel 5 called the Medical Debt Medical Debt Rescue. We have partnered with a nonprofit. We have given them sizable donation of $15,000. They have taken that money and they have gone to debt collectors, and they have now abolished $1.8 million in medical debt for 600 people across Middle Tennessee. We have no way of choosing who gets one of these yellow envelopes that went out today in the mail. If you do get one, though, contact us immediately. It means that your medical debt, some of it or maybe all of it, has been paid off, and we want to hear your stories. Again, we don't have any way to, unfortunately, pick whose medical bills get paid off, because there are some people who really need this, and hopefully this really does impact some people. I know, just kind of in talking to the company, there's really, it's pretty random. There are some qualifiers like income levels. They try to target people who may be 2.5 times the poverty level, just so that this is really going to folks who need it. But it's astonishing that small of amount of money can wipe out millions of dollars in debt. And 600 people are lucky winners, so yes. And hopefully more. We're going to continue getting to some phone calls here. I think we have Lily has been on line 4 for a while. Lily, are you still there?
Yes. You answered a lot of the questions that I had to ask.
Okay.
However, how often is this done? How often do y'all do this? Selecting people for medical debt payout?
I will tell you, this is the first time that we have ever done it, and we're hoping that it gains some momentum and people will continue to donate money so that we can buy off more debt. There have been some other instances around the country. Some place in Dallas did it. I was reading, there's a New York Times article that some kind-hearted souls outside of New York City, these two women raised about $20,000 just through GoFundMe's, and they gave it to this company, and they went out and paid off medical debt. So it's being done, it's just not in large fragments. I believe John, you there still? John?
Yeah.
You there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Did we talk to you earlier?
Yeah, you cut me off.
Okay.
Well, because I was listening to the phone and the TV at the same time.
Okay. I know earlier you said...
I apologize.
It's okay.
For that.
I know you said earlier you have some debt. What was it like having all that debt?
Well, it was very struggle, but the problem is I was able to work my way out of it. Yeah. And I still owe on everything, but it doesn't matter there. What I'm talking about is that back in the day, before you guys had Obama, Reagan, and all them people deciding whether we could make this, Bredesen came in there and said Tennessee Care would never be abolished, and then he did it. And in his oversight as governor, he went in and changed the laws and made it harder on everyone else. While I understand his concept, I don't understand why he would hurt everyone else that was a lower income family.
So let's clarify some things, not all necessarily factually correct there, but it has been tougher for Tennesseans than other people in this country.
Absolutely, and we're #1 at medical debt bankruptcy because we have very many people who lost coverage. For a bit in the 90s, we led the nation in the number of people who were insured. We decided to include everybody in our Medicaid program. People bought in who were uninsurable in the mid-90s. He refers to Governor Bredesen's action that took 300,000 people and took them off of health coverage. I mean, the fact is there's an awful lot of political games being played by people of both parties for political reasons. And the fact is, it means that it's super complicated to know whether or not your family is going to have a safety net there when you need it, or whether their insurance is actually going to meet the needs of folks.
Which is fascinating, because so many politicians will play political chicken with this stuff, because when it is the single most important factor on voters' minds.
Yes, and nobody goes into the hospital as a Republican or a Democrat. Nobody really wants to see their neighbor suffer because they weren't born a billionaire,
right.
And really you'd have to be more than a billionaire to withstand any sort of serious accident or injury. It's incredibly complicated to navigate insurance and to navigate you know, a medical crisis, and so it shouldn't be so hard. It shouldn't be so hard in America.
Let's see if we can get some more calls in here. It's 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-PLUS if you want to join the conversation. Lucy has been waiting very patiently for us. Lucy, are you still there?
Yes. Hey, Mr. Conti.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. Hey, TJC. I love TJC. You guys are heroes.
Where are you calling from, Lucy?
I'm calling from Nashville.
Okay.
I just want to make some comments. 25 years ago, I contracted with an attorney, and I helped them prepare and bring the cases to the judge down at the federal courthouse for Chapter 11 and 13 bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm.
I did a lot of inventories on people's possessions, and these people had boats, they had nice farms, houses, they had their own businesses, they had all kinds of stuff, but somebody got sick, and they couldn't afford the insurance the way self-employed, the way it was going up. Some of them had Farm Bureau at the time, and it didn't pay. This is 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And they dropped their insurance, but they were starting to take out also debts at 35% interest and stuff to rob Peter to pay Paul. But then somebody got sick, and it wiped them out. And these are people that were in their 50s approaching retirement.
Yeah.
Okay? You've got Mr. Dukakis that comes on there and tells you that you need at least a minimum of $1 million put back nowadays to pay your medical bills and stuff that are going to come up and keep you from, you know, going out on the limb and going out on Medicaid in nursing homes. And he talks about how many people now have to take Medicaid to go into the nursing home. But I want to ask TJC there, because I've been following this for quite some time. I've been victimized by private insurance, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and they were so outrageous. I had to drop it when it got to $1,000, and that was probably back in, I'd say probably 2002 or 3, when it was $1,000 a month. And then they weren't paying any of the bills, and I was supposed to have a pretty good policy. So I'm like, where do you go? And then I found out that they negotiated, the insurance company, with these doctors, and they decided what they pay, and at the end of the year, if the doctors saved money, then they'd all get a kickback and some sort of whatever. But the thing that I followed the most was something that was disturbing to me, and TJC, maybe you've heard of this, because this is why I have followed the Affordable Care Act, because it was supposed to stop that. You've done a story, Mr. Conti, and they just got through talking about losing their houses when they put a lien on it. But between 2002 and 2004, these lobbyists went to every state legislature in this country, every state legislature. There were only 3 at the time who allowed this, where a hospital could attach a lien to your property for a debt, a medical debt, and if you had a certain percentage, I think if you had 10% equity or 15% equity, they could force you to foreclose and recover their money for that debt, okay? So now it's all 50 states, and the main thing to me about the Affordable Care Act was there was a provision in there that they could no longer foreclose on these people's houses, because I thought that was ludicrous to put somebody that got sick, and just because they had a little equity in their house, that they could try to get that amount and say they might just get $20,000 on a $500,000 debt. But by God, they're happy. And people thought I was crazy telling them these things. And what did you just say? For 15 grand, you cleared $1.5 million in debt?
$1.8 million.
Okay, so have you heard of this? And if they overturn the Affordable Care Act, that goes back to now they're going to do this again.
So can people get their homes foreclosed on?
I'm going to hang up.
Okay.
Wait, Lucy.
Okay,
Lucy,
yeah,
did you hang up?
I'm not sure about the provision of the Affordable Care Act that she mentioned. I know that basically they can put a lien on your house, but a lot of people give up their house because they need the money to buy groceries, and so they have to sell their house, and they lose their house because of medical debt, whether or not the hospital forces them. And then when they sell it, then the hospital, of course, takes that money. I'm just not familiar with that particular provision.
I wanted to ask her more about folks that, Lucy, if you're still on, you can call us back. I want to ask you more about what it was like dealing with folks who were having to go into bankruptcy, because I think that's a really interesting section of this that we don't get to see a lot of. We're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back. Stay with us.